This is Luigi Mangione, the main person of interest in the whacking of former United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Luigi was apprehended on Tuesday, December 10th, the same day that my J-Subs collab finished its run. It's purely a coincidence. Where he was found at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania after committing the act in New York just a few days earlier. And ever since Luigi was named as the main suspect, people have taken to digging up every crumb of this dude's backstory. And I can comfortably say that this might be one of the funniest dudes to ever do it if he actually did it. Like, even before we knew who he was, he had apparently dropped his backpack in Central Park, and when the police found it, the bag was just filled with Monopoly money. The further we get into this, the more you're gonna realize this just reads as one gigantic Discord group chat gag, I am telling you. Hi again, guys, and I really have not been able to stop thinking about this dude. It is genuinely insane to me, some of the hijinks he may or may not have been getting up to, and I really can't describe them as anything other than shenanigans, and I needed to just talk about it somewhere. I do want to start by saying that up till now, Luigi here is still only a suspect. It seems like there is a decent amount of things pointing to him being the Pew Pew Man, but there's a chance the real guy is halfway across Canada now and about to leave the country. Right now, I'm just talking about the stuff we got to work on as of Wednesday, December 11th. But if this is true, this has the makings as potentially one of the funniest assassinations ever planned by just one guy, if the single-page manifesto allegedly found on Luigi's person is to be believed. And I'd also like to say, definitely not just for the sake of getting ads, murder is bad. Violence is also bad, and you shouldn't murder people. This video is only meant to highlight the ridiculous reality we live in where all of this crazy shit happens and just point at the thing and go, oh my god, wasn't that shit crazy? I'm just here to talk about how absurd all of it is. Now, one thing to keep in mind is this guy absolutely believed in the time-tested silly to seriousness ratio. If I had to describe him in icky influencer terms, this guy was running a masterclass on how to start your online brand from scratch. He had some really strong branding and he had a very big gag that would get people's attention quickly. The bullets he powed the billion-dollar company CEO guy with had delay, deny, and depose written on them. I can only imagine he had other words written on bullets that didn't leave the chamber, maybe a decimate or a get dick down if he was willing to go with phrases the further in the mag he got. But it's most likely referencing the 3 Ds of insurance: delay, deny, defend, a motto used to nickel and dime people out of paying their healthcare costs by insurance companies all the time. Either way, it doesn't super matter because experts in the field of branding have described this as hard as shit, the experts being me. Because I knew that even before we knew who this guy was, this detail alone cemented him as someone with just that kind of pizzazz that makes him magnetic. This is the kind of person you can make fan edits for. This is the kind of guy who in another life would have made a great faceless YouTuber that people thirsted over without ever knowing what they looked like. So they drew fan art of him looking super hot in the absence of an actual face to look at. And they absolutely did that, exactly as I knew they would. It wasn't just fan art though. People were eating up everything they could about this guy. They were giving his leaked images of his face, those cutesy fan edited images to use as profile pictures that every white boy micro e-celebrity a few years back was getting. The swaths of fan art coming out was something I haven't seen since the peak Dream SMP, and within a few days this motherfucker even had cosplayers. It's like if the Riddler from Matt Reeves' Batman was real and looked more like Chris Evans than Paul Dano. And I want to clarify a point I know I'm going to be seeing a lot of you make in the comments. You think he looks a little like me when he's in the disguise. And listen, it is not my fault that this guy bit my whole swag and then went on to become significantly more famous than me. It happens all the time when a guy is as ahead of the curve as I am. Even El Hugity said that a depiction of the alleged shooter looked like me. That's oomph, by the way. I bet you can't say that about your relationship with the story of Undertale guy. That said, I think it's important to say that the person you see in all these images and in the security footage is not me. I have not and would never murder anyone. The killing took place in Manhattan, and I haven't stepped foot in New York City in years. I wanted to get ahead of this early because I know some of my audience would think it's funny to send in false tips to Crime Stoppers saying that they have information, and then they just send a link of my channel to clog up the inbox. Guys, do not waste government resources by doing that. You won't get anything. And I've been inside playing Marvel Rivals this whole time anyways, so my teammates hearing me rage about Jeff the Landshark in Discord calls could easily corroborate my whereabouts. Speaking of Crime Stoppers though, everything I've talked about so far was from before Luigi was taken into custody, where he got ID'd by a rando burrito at a McDonald's by someone calling 911. The issue is the person who identified them probably won't be able to get a single cent of the reward money attached to sharing the information because they didn't call the proper Crime Stoppers number. Snitches should not get stitches because violence is wrong, as we've established, but turns out that in this case, they don't even get the money either. When the wider public found out the main suspect's name, they dug deep, uncovered everything about this guy, and I mean everything. They found his senior high school yearbook, and one of his senior quotes is literally a line from a Donkey video. Another day, another play. You cannot make this shit up. Well, you could make it up, but it's funnier that you don't have to. Perhaps the most immediate treasure trove we had was when people dug up his Twitter account, where immediately his banner felt like reading hieroglyphics. It starts with a shirtless pic of him on the right, causing many people to go, "Oh my god, he's hot," making it one of the face reveals that was actually able to meet expectations of how hot you thought the guy behind the mask was. Second, we had x-rays of what looks like hardware that was installed to someone's lower back, presumably Luigi's. And lastly, just fucking Breloom, like the Pokemon. Straight up, just a PNG of the official art. It is so cryptic and random, yet feels shitposty at the same time. And with all the other gags the alleged shooter might have been getting up to, it had people in a frenzy trying to pick apart the deeper message behind it. The first thing people thought was, well, Breloom's Pokédex ID number is 286. What other numbers are 286? I wonder if the Bible has anything to say about this. Proverbs 28:6. Better is a poor man who walks in his integrity than a rich man who is crooked in his ways. I don't know about you, but that sounds very applicable to the discussion that's being had by companies like United Healthcare just enlarging their riches by denying health insurance claims to people in the worst moment of their lives. In Luigi's supposed manifesto, he says, "These companies have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it." But the same way that the shooter's concealed face with the mask and the hood became a kind of like visual for everybody that kind of felt where he might have been coming from, a lot of people decided to give the whole Breloom thing the same treatment by making it Luigi's official persona. Every content creator worth their salt will get fan art of them drawn as some kind of furry eventually. And Luigi was no exception. You had this hard-ass shot of a Breloom with a still smoking gun walking away from the scene of the crime. The victim of the assassination can be spotted in the background with that same Bible quote I read you earlier just pasted on the image. In one of the most diabolical image captions I think I've ever read, all it said was TM09. If you don't know, TMs, short for technical machines, are an item in Pokemon games that lets you teach a new move to a Pokemon. Only certain Pokemon can learn certain moves, but Breloom first appeared in the Gen 3 Pokemon games Ruby and Sapphire, and it can indeed learn TM09, which teaches the move Bullet Seed. Not only was this guy creative in his execution of what he may or may not have done, but the community that has been inspired in his wake are getting a little creative themselves. Additionally, though, a lot of people have been scouring Luigi's posts on social media to try and find a potential motive. Like, what pushes a guy like this to possibly assassinate a guy like the CEO of a health insurance company? Let's forget that there's an obvious answer for a second, and just think about what Luigi's life was like before all this. He is an objectively good-looking dude. He graduated from an Ivy League school. He has a master's in computer science. His family is from a background with successful connections that's well known in the Baltimore area. So what could make someone with those opportunities throw it all away? And are there any hints in his past that could tell us what led to him committing this act he's being accused of today? Well, it's hard to say for sure, and none of this is definitive, but I have found a few key moments of interest that may be relevant. On January 17th, 2010, he said, "No, one of my fishes got stuck into the filter," which is truly a tragic loss in Luigi's life, perhaps the first major loss of a loved one that he would experience. He was only around 11 or 12 years old when this would have happened, and perhaps the trauma of losing a fish like that early on in such a senseless and needless fashion, no matter, was compounded later in life by seeing a similar maltreatment of a loved one by the health insurance industry as he got older. It's impossible to say for sure, though. Another potential key here was that Luigi apparently was an avid player of social deduction and manipulation simulator Among Us. It was described as an assassin game by the New York Post, and this could be big news for that game as they're reeling from a devastating loss to other bean-shaped gaming icons, the Fall Guys, in a recent constant death battle. They also seem to be potentially implicated with this whole situation. They've been tweeting very suspiciously these last few days, a single and curiously setting their location status on Twitter to not being involved in crimes. I mean, that's kind of the default assumption of what any normal person is up to on a given day, but it reads like they might be possibly setting up an alibi very early on in this investigation. Internet sleuthers were also able to find what is apparently Luigi's Steam account, and he is not as much of a gamer as me, but there is a shocking amount of based in here. For one, he has 8 hours on Firewatch, and that game is only like 4 hours long. So he played it once and recognized it was so good, he's like, nope, gotta run it back. There's 50 hours on Black Ops 2 multiplayer here, 50 hours on Halo Infinite, which I realize is like not the most enviable game to be caught playing in modern year, but I've been really enjoying Forge games on that recently, so I have to stick up for it at least a little bit. And hey, he redeems himself later by playing the Master Chief Collection a bunch further down the list. Now, in general, a lot has been made of the fact that this guy's name is Luigi. Like, if you're a public defender named Mario, you have the chance to do the funniest thing ever. And you know, I get skeptical when people say things like that, but I think there's a pretty good argument that this is the real deal. People say that, ooh, you could do the funniest thing ever so much, that objectively most of them saying it are lying. Only one of the things a particular person could do would qualify as the funniest thing ever. But I think this one might be the actual funniest. This is a joke a lot of people are catching up on and seem to really vibe with. You can even hear random paparazzi making the joke to Luigi as he's getting put into a police car.
Hello, Luigi! Luigi, it's me, Mario. Me, Mario.
And let's face it, video game Luigi and real-life potential assassin Luigi are just inextricably linked for the rest of time now. The same way that the Pokemon leaks earlier this year will make Typhlosion fans everywhere suffer for the sake of a bit people want to drive into the ground, the inverse effect will happen to Breloom and potentially Luigi in a positive way. Like when the Mario movie inevitably gets a sequel, shit that Luigi does in it will be used to make callbacks to this time in history. There were several Luigi fan edits that I saw set to TV off that were made before this guy even got caught or we knew who he was. Then they got gained a whole new level of depth when people were posting them on the Twitter timeline to celebrate this guy doing what he did, potentially. And like video game Luigi before him, the amount of Italian jokes real-life Luigi has had grafted onto him in this moment were also unavoidable. Powerful people getting whacked by Italians in New York City. We are back in the golden age. And on a tweet from Popbase, fucking A1 journalistic source here, Luigi Mangione's disdain towards the healthcare industry is likely due to its treatment of an ailing relative. According to the New York Post, he lost his grandmother in 2013 and his grandfather in 2017. And somebody saw the immediate quote tweet potential this post was simply oozing with and took their shot at it, no pun intended. Assassinating someone to avenge your grandpa and grandpa is such an Italian thing to do. Now, I can't really say that any of this or what we've discussed was his motivation for if he did do it, or to be sure what the exact reasoning for what he may or may not have done even is at all. I don't really have much of substance to say here. I'm sure you could intuit what my feelings are through the overall jovial tone I'm addressing a murder with. Disdain and disapproval. Murder is wrong. But the important part is this is a developing situation, and I mostly just wanted to look at some of the more absurd, funny shit out there. I'll be keeping up with this on my own time, and if something crazy really comes out, I might make another video. In the meantime, if you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like and subscribe with notifications on. Anyways, this has been Kwite, and I'll see y'all next time.